Thank you for joining this episode of our webinar series on best practices in e-discovery. Today's session is focused on best practices for one of the foundational steps in e-discovery. Today, we're focused on helping you search better in order to avoid missing evidence and to progress through your workflow in order to meet your production deadlines. While the concept of search is basic, if it's not done properly, it can have devastating consequences, and Aaron Derby on our team will help you avoid those mistakes. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Lexpe, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. Our webinars take place monthly and cover a variety of relevant e-discovery topics, trends, best practices, and strategies. Space is limited to the capacity of our webinar platform, and with the popularity of these sessions, I recommend registering promptly for the sessions that are of interest to you. If you have technical issues or questions, please email us at webinars@lexpe.com and we'll address those right away. Our webinars are available online at lexpe.com for viewing via streaming video or downloadable as a PDF presentation or MP3 podcast. You'll find this webinar and a complete listing of other webinars at lexpe.com. To be notified of future live and on-demand events, please email us at webinars@lexpe.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Based in Austin, Texas, we provide a very affordable cloud-based e-discovery platform as well as services. We specialize in equipping the boutique firm with an e-discovery solution that gives them full control over the e-discovery process, DIY capabilities, and very fast performance. We're the industry's most affordable and full-featured DIY e-discovery platform. We're the industry's fastest e-discovery processing and document review software. We deliver the industry's fastest return on investment. And we have a team of experienced e-discovery specialists and expert consultants who are all ACED certified and can assist on a moment's notice. If you'd like a demonstration of our platform, simply email us at sales@lexpe.com and we'll get that scheduled for you. Joining us today is Aaron Derby. She's the e-discovery development manager, and she's also a litigation paralegal. Aaron specializes in working with clients handling e-discovery and complex litigation, requiring a high level of precision and expertise. Aaron is ACED certified and has over 10 years experience with both plaintiff and defense law firms in a variety of practice areas. Before I turn it over to Aaron, I'm going to ask a couple of polling questions to set the stage for today's presentation. Our first polling question is, how confident are you in your ability to effectively utilize search methodologies to find the documents you need for your case? Are you very confident, somewhat confident, not very confident, or yikes? All right, and while you're answering that, I'll take this time to thank you for participating in our polling questions today. And our next polling question is, what percentage of your matters do you consider document intensive? All right, I'll give you a couple minutes to complete that one. All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And without further ado, Aaron Derby. Aaron?
Thank you for that introduction. And as stated, this webinar will center on some search strategies to help you get through your large document reviews. And we're going to go over a couple of things, some more in depth than others, but we're going to make sure we focus on just understanding some of the modern day search and our e-discovery indexing technologies and understanding what indexing means in the context of your case as it's loaded into an e-discovery platform. We'll talk about some of the basic and more advanced search options, the way to get around some indexing gotchas, the issues with relying solely on an image-based OCR index, so meaning what kind of challenges could your review face if you are only extracting the text from your imaged PDFs or TIFF images. And also, on the other side of that, why native extraction alone is not the only option you want to use for your indexing abilities, meaning the text, the HTML text extracted from your native documents also has its own challenges if you're relying on that as your only indexing option. We'll go over how to work with foreign language and translated text, as that's part of your indexing as well, and talking about how the best search options are when you have what's referred to as a concatenated index, here at Lexvi, we have an Uber index, and that is an example of a concatenated index, but we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll summarize the takeaways from this webinar as we close. First off, let's just start with some best practices for looking at your documents before you begin your review. The best practices are to look at what kind of documents you have and do some early stage culling. So what I mean by that is go over the documents that you have, look at your initial pleadings, your complaints, any sort of initiating discovery that's been propounded to you or by you, and think of some keywords. Look at what date ranges the complaint is dealing with, or what date ranges your part of the case is relying on. And also look at the type of custodians you have. What's their role in their job, or what's their role in the litigation itself? Where is their information coming from? And work out your keywords on the front end, just knowing what your case is going to center around. The keywords can be iterative, of course, and they should be, because you will come up with words that you find are something that maybe your client or their employees are using to describe something, and maybe that's not something that you anticipated at first. But if you are in a position to negotiate your keywords on the front end with your opposition and the court, that's always a good option. But for some early stage culling, you don't need to have an agreed upon keyword term to go by. You can just use your own information that you have based on what you know about the case and develop your own list to start out, and maybe later on get something in writing in your discovery order. When you use a keyword-based responsive and privilege review, you are able to drill down to exactly what you want to look at using these keyword terms that I just talked about. You'll be able to build your search queries to return the documents that are going to be most likely responsive and or confidential, so that you can exclude them or mark them appropriately. You'll be able to go through and identify your documents for your deposition preparation. You can find your key documents related to your specific deponents. You can do this while you're reviewing for the responsiveness and confidentiality as well. You can set up some custom fields inside of your eDiscovery platform and mark them as you're going, so you don't have to do sort of two reviews. When you identify your key docs for trial, you can also do this at the same time you're doing your early stage culling. You're going to know what the key documents are, your smoking guns. So you'd want to code those that will be needed for trial as well. And the more you can do on the front end, that sets you up for success later on down the line when your deadlines get closer together and the demands of your case are coming more rapidly. One of the most important things of using your eDiscovery platform to search is constructing quality searches. So this means that you would want to look at your pleadings and your knowledge of the case, like I talked about in the last slide. But when you look at your request for productions or your subpoena for documents, you'd want to translate what's in those attached exhibits or what's in the explanation of what is to be collected from your subpoena. You'd want to develop that into a keyword search strategy. You'd also want to interview the custodians. So understand what they have in their possession. What's their role in the company? What's their role in the litigation? What sort of words are they using to describe what they anticipate you will find in their email account or on their hard drive? This goes into the next important point that you need to understand when you're developing your search terms, is to understand the jargon that's used by your client and or their employees or other people involved in the litigation. There are definitely industry and company subculture terms and abbreviations that you may not be familiar with as the attorney. They could be something that is specific to the industry that your client is involved in. It could just be a way that that particular company calls things. You would want to make sure that you're searching for the right documents if you're looking for contract, for example, and then you find out that everybody in this company calls contracts agreements. You obviously wouldn't come across the documents you're looking for if you're searching for the wrong term. You'd want to also think about misspelled versions of keywords, and we call this fuzzy search when you're using a platform like ours to search, and it will allow you to account for emails or other words with typos. This could be a typo with somebody's name. It could be just any word where people, juxtapose one word, one letter for another in a word that they're typing. We've all made typos like that in emails. So incorporating the idea that you may come across some misspellings and using this fuzzy search technique will help you as you go through your documents as well. There are many pros of using keyword searching, and one of the biggest ones that certainly litigators and attorneys and support staff are interested in are fast results. Keyword search is really, really fast compared with other document search methodologies such as a linear review when you're looking at a document one by one. The fact that you can enter in a term or, more likely a strong Boolean string, you can get from millions of documents to thousands of documents to hundreds of documents to then, maybe a handful by using different search techniques. And that saves a lot of time if you're using your platform for what it's capable of doing. And of course, time is money. So if you're able to do something faster using a keyword search, it's going to be less expensive to your client. And also, if you're using a vendor, it's going to be less expensive for you and or your client because the keyword methodology is much faster compared with a manual review where you're paying a document attorney or you're using your own billable hour rate to review these documents. The search quality using keywords is going to give you very good results. If you are using different iterations of keyword terms and you are adding to them or maybe adding wildcards on the end to make sure you're getting the full version of a document or the full string that's related to a term that you're looking for, you're going to get very high quality results with not too many false positives. You're going to be able to tell exactly what you're looking for, and that will lead you down a path to find related documents as well. This also avoids manual review errors and inconsistencies that are generated by human error. So maybe somebody has a different idea of what you would consider to be confidential. If you are the managing partner on the case and you are the one dealing with the client primarily, and you have instructed your associates and possibly some other document review attorneys at a vendor perhaps, you can be sure that the search technique is not going to deliver inconsistent results based on somebody's understanding or misunderstanding of the key arguments in your case. And of course, with every pro, there's also a con. You can find that your search could be over or under inclusive. So this means that your search terms could bring back too many junk results, or they could even miss some good results. So these are called false positives and false negatives in terms of searching. So this could be that maybe you have a search string that is pulling in a word that's too common across all of your documents. We see this sometimes where you might expect to get less results, but because you just included this one word that is in a large population of your corpus of documents, it's pulling in too many results, and that can create problems for you to understand what's really important versus what's not. It can be difficult to create good search terms. It takes some time and testing, and it shouldn't be something that you do only once, because once you preserve your first pass review, you would want to go back and look at those results that your terms generated and see, what other words could I add to this search string, or how could I change the syntax to eliminate this set of documents, but make sure that I retain this set. So it can be difficult to create good terms, but the more you practice at it and the more you test on your own documents, the better your terms will become. We run into sometimes issues with non-searchable text. So you can find that you may have a case that goes back before we were using computers to do everything. And so from an electronic collection standpoint, this could be something that was scanned in by your client or somebody else. It could be old real estate documents. Sometimes the text can be unsearchable because of OCR errors, meaning that perhaps you have an older document, the quality is bad, you don't have a better copy, and the computer just can't pick up exactly what those words are because they just look so poorly on their face. So a human, of course, would be able to read that document without, taking into consideration that it's analyzing the text itself to pull out what it needs to search. So there are some benefits to having, the human reviewers go back over the documents once they are initially culled and make sure that if those kind of documents exist in your case, that you're taking that into consideration as you go forward with your searching as well. And some file types just can't be indexed. So there's little consistency in what files can be indexed across different databases. So depending on the types of files that you have, for instance, if you have a case that involves some construction litigation, you would want to consult with your vendor and see what type of indexing is available for, let's say, DWG files or engineering plans. You'd want to make sure that the indexing that's behind your vendor's tool is able to extract that kind of text too. And if not, you need to employ some other kind of review methodology to handle those types of documents that can't be indexed. So right on the front of your search, you're going to be able to filter out some unneeded file types. So these would be maybe some PNG files that get attached as images to an email. It could be, when your email is uploaded to your platform, it extracts out each image as a .png file. That's just an example we see sometimes. And what you'll find when you open that PNG file is that it's just the logo of the company, or it's just the logo of the firm. So that wouldn't have any probative information. So you're able to exclude those types of files from your review if you're able to determine that, a majority of these types of files are going to be something I don't need to look at. More importantly, the Boolean modifiers will limit overly expansive searches. So the syntax that we'll talk about a little bit later in building your Boolean modifiers is going to be your best bet for getting into very particular documents. So oftentimes, if you're able to do a keyword search with, a simple phrase or a keyword, if you go back later after you've done a first pass, 30,000 foot review of your results you've gotten from that initial search, you'll be able to determine what types of modifiers might help you really find the document you were interested in finding when you searched for X term. And what that means is that you could say, well, I want to see a document that has this word in it, but not these words. And by doing that, you can probably get right to what you're interested in very quickly. So we have some basic Boolean operators here that I'll go over briefly, but before I do, I would just like to point out that many of you will have been schooled on the search methodologies for Lexis or Westlaw, and this could go all the way back to your law school days. It could go back to just the fact that you were trained by someone how to use LexisNexis or the Westlaw searching. So while this type of searching is a lot of times they run in parallel between your e-discovery vendor and your case law searching, some of the syntax is different. So these basic Boolean operators that you see here on this slide are likely something that is also used in your Lexis and Westlaw accounts. The difference is that most e-discovery vendors use the industry standard search indexing company called DT Search behind their platform. DT Search supports different types of wildcards and also does not do the exact same syntax that Lexis and Westlaw does. So if you run into issues where you're doing searches that you are familiar with based on your familiarity with Lexis and Westlaw, but you're in your e-discovery platform and finding you're not getting the results you would expect, it's probably best to reach out to your customer service and check your syntax or your operators to make sure that they're compatible with the library behind the scenes that supports your vendor's search index. The basic Boolean operators that will be used are going to be the and, that will obviously return both terms. So apple and pear will give you a document that has both apple and pear in it. The or operator is going to give you at least one of a list of terms. So apple or pear will find a document that has either one of those words in it. And obviously the not is going to exclude terms you don't want. So you could say apple and pear, not banana. It's going to return all documents that have apple and pear in it, but exclude the ones that have apple and pear and banana. Parentheses are very important, and that can give you some weird results. It's if you're finding that you're placing your parentheses in and you're not getting good results, make sure that you're putting the appropriate number of parentheses, that you're closing your parens, and that you're grouping your terms together in order of operations that's going to return the document you'd expect. this next one, the pre/n, that means that the first term doesn't precede the second term by more than n words. So if you're looking for a specific phrase or a specific 2 words being used together, that's a really good one to use. And then, of course, the wildcard characters, the asterisk is going to replace the letter in your search term, and the exclamation point is going to allow for stemming search. So a stemming search means that it will help you get different deviations of a word. So it's going to give you your INGs, your past and present tense, all that. So the wildcard characters is something that's really helpful. The asterisk, for instance, if you have a party to your case and his name is Christopher, people may call him Chris if they are familiar with him. And in that case, you could search for Chris with an asterisk, and that will pull any result in for Chris, Christopher, or any other deviation of the name Christopher, as long as CHRIS is in the beginning of it. Another great tool taking advantage of the index available to you in your eDiscovery platform is the ability to search for protected information. So in a federal court, of course, you have to be sure and redact all of these personally identifiable information. So social security numbers, credit card numbers, birthdays, those sort of things. So by using these search options with the Boolean option, the wildcard of it's the equal sign, you can list them out as they are in this slide as a sequence of 9 digits. So this would help you find a social security number. So wildcard, 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 space, wildcard, wildcard, etc. That's going to return any document that includes numbers in that order. So 3 numbers, space, 2 numbers, space, 4 numbers. Any document that has that sequence of numbers in it will be returned as a hit. And then you or someone on your staff can go through and review those hits and redact the information if it is in fact a social security number. You can do this with credit card numbers, birthdays, phone numbers, or anything else that you need to redact before you produce to your opposition or before you file it with the court and get a nasty gram from the clerk's office if you forget to do this. So here's just an example of that, of how it would look in LexB if you did that. So you'll see here in the search box, we have the syntax that I mentioned before, and it's pulling out phone numbers. It's pulling out any numbers that have that sequence above. So this would be a phone number. So it's the area code, the first 3 and the last 4, and you'll see here in the results that we have some hits on these phone numbers here with the 713 area code. So when you're testing your keyword searching results, the first thing you want to do is look at the results that were returned. So if you don't review your documents after you've done this first pass search, a couple of things are going to happen. You may have low quality results, meaning that you could have disclosed documents that are non-responsive, that are junk, or that are, God forbid, privileged because you only search for one term. You didn't notice that they also included information related to a conversation that maybe your client had with you later on in the document. So it's important to always review your initial results, because if you don't, you'll get low quality, or even worse, you may produce something that you didn't want to. You're going to want to create new queries and reduce these false positives. So you're going to sample the set that you get on your initial pass after your initial keyword review, and likely add more new keywords. So you're going to find out that when you review these documents, again, there are words that you didn't anticipate being as important as they actually are in your documents. So you're going to want to make sure that you include that and run a search for those additional words as well. And then finally, finding your new keywords when you run a fuzzy and concept search. The fuzzy search, again, is taking into account any misspellings that may have occurred in your documents. And then the concept search will help you find synonymous words. So it's going to help you find, when I talked earlier about looking for the word contract and they're calling it agreement, if you search for the word agreement, it's going to find the synonym of agreement, or many of the synonyms of agreement rather. So one of those would likely be contract. So that will help you flesh out the company jargon or the colloquial way that your custodians are speaking to each other. So some ways to improve searchability is to understand your data collection. And if it's not you, someone on your review team needs to understand the type of data that's coming out of your custodian's hard drive or email. You have to understand the file types that are in there, any type of special issues you may run into. So what I talked about before with the construction documents or the engineering documents, can your vendor support the searching of text in a DWG file? Can they support the searching of text in an engineering plan? Not everything is ready to be indexed, and you need to make sure that all the data that's in there, if it requires extra processing, you're taking that into account on the front end, or if your results return things you're not expecting, you need to look at the document itself and make sure that the text has been extracted so that it can be indexed and then searched. More important than that is, if you have a good understanding of your data collection, you also have to understand the software that's being used to process your documents and then search it. So your indexing tools will create a database entry for files. It's going to open the document itself, scan it, and it's going to store the content in fields, so these metadata fields. And it's going to often be based on the data's location within the document. So the header data fields of an email are going to be stored in the to, from, CC, BCC, subject, and then the body, for example. If the indexing tools can't open a type of file or see what types of data is within the file, it can't index it, and so the data won't be searchable in a way that you would expect. So understanding and speaking to your vendor and understanding the type of database that you're working in and how its own index works is going to allow you to make sure that you understand the type of searching that you're doing with your own documents, and if your vendor's platform is supporting that. So when you load your documents into a processing or a review platform like Lexbe, what typically happens is an archive or container expansion will happen first. So an archive or a container would be your zip files for loose documents. It would be your PST file or OST file or an MBOX file. Those are all email containers. So as soon as you load one of those, what happens is that they expand, and they usually will account for each document being extracted. So each email and then any attachments, those will all be extracted as individual documents. Your platform typically has built-in file repair. So if there are any low-level corruption in the documents that you're uploading, oftentimes the platform will be able to repair those. It's going to extract all your metadata and your fieldings, all your dates, all of your sender information, your date last modified, all of those things will be extracted and placed in the correct field. It's going to generate your MD5 hash code, which is helpful for identifying duplicative documents. And that's typically how you will run your deduplication on the documents that are uploaded, is using this MD5 hash code. That's like a document's footprint, or fingerprint rather. Each document has its own individual fingerprint, and if a document is the same, it will have the same fingerprint. It's going to identify system file types and denist your documents. So it's going to get rid of some of those file types that are definitely not going to have any evidentiary value to you. So any system file types, printer drives, those sort of things. You can run your deduplication. You'll be able to set a time zone offset for your emails, meaning that when you're reviewing your documents, you're going to know exactly the time that you're looking at. You don't have to try to do the math and think, well, my client was sitting in California, but I'm in New York. What time was this email sent? If you set the time zone offset ahead of time, you'll know exactly what you're working with in terms of timeframes. You'll be able to assign documents to their custodians for ease of filtering and preparing for depositions, and it's going to do some native text extraction. It's going to OCR your images, so that's going to extract the text of your images. So the OCR text, those are your PDFs, and your TIFF files will be supported by the OCR, which will extract the text from those and make those searchable as well. So talking about an index, this is very important, again, so that you can prepare yourself to question your vendor and the platform that they support your documents going into. Understanding the type of index that they have is paramount to understanding how effective your search is going to be. So the purpose of storing an index is to optimize the speed and performance to find your relevant documents when you're searching. So the index that I'm talking about here is really no different than thinking about a textbook. that you have and you open up the index in the back and you're looking for the word mitochondria in a biology book, of course, that word is going to occur quite often in a biology book, but you want to know exactly where it occurs. The publishers of that book have already done the heavy lifting and indexed that book for you, so you can jump right to the pages that you're looking for related to the word mitochondria. An eDiscovery platform works in a similar way in that at upload, during the processing of these documents, the index is built. So the eDiscovery platforms that you use are very powerful, and they're scanning each document and making a reference similar to the textbook index, making a reference in the database behind the scenes. So when you put in your search terms, it's not scanning, 300,000 documents right then and there. It already has a reference built in for where that word exists in the corpus of your documents. So we're able to parse out some noise words or stop words, and those will increase the search speed. So noise words and stop words, if you're using a Boolean function, you can use and as an operator, but if you're searching for pears and apples in a natural language search, it's going to only look for pear and apple because obviously and is going to occur in almost every single document. So it gets rid of that noise word. So I've talked a little bit about OCR and indexing, how the text is extracted. So when I say OCR, I mean optical character recognition. So that's an image-based character recognition in that your search results are generated from the image of the document. So if you upload a Word document to your eDiscovery platform, often the platform will generate what's called a normalized view of the document. So that is a picture or an image of the document. And then the index will extract the text from that imaged version of the document. Native files are converted to the image file, and then the OCR makes the text searchable. So that is what I was talking about with the Word document. Once that's uploaded, changes into a PDF, and then the software will extract the text from the PDF, not the Word document. So the conversion software uses this, it's called a print driver approach, and it will image what would have been physically printed. So with OCR extracted text, you could miss headers and footers, any notes or comments that are placed on the document, so your red line comments. If you have highlighted text or hidden sheets within an Excel, hidden text in an Excel, any type of filters that were applied on an Excel, all of those are lost when your only option is a text-based indexed. So your image text is extracted, but your native document is not. So this can be prohibitive, especially if you're working with Excel documents or if you're in litigation where there may have been multiple versions of a contract going back and forth, for instance. You will only get the text that's extracted from the document itself. Like if you took a picture of it and you can see it with the naked eye, you will not be able to search on any of those hidden comments or any type of footnote or an annotation on that document. So OCR works like the document, it's a scanned image. So it's run through this virtual print driver I mentioned, and it's inspected for alphanumeric text. So once it's identified, it's lifted and indexed, and then that makes it searchable for you. So it distinguishes light and dark to determine characters that match symbols. So there are algorithms behind the scenes that recognize the text that's extracted and associates it with what they have in their algorithm as an A. So you'll see this is the example here. It's taking these three parts of the A, and together the algorithm identifies that as the letter A. It's not always accurate, and there are a few reasons for that. Mostly it's related to the quality of the image. I'd say 90% of the time where I see OCR issues, it's because the document that we receive is poor quality. So it could have been scanned in a lot, it could be an old document, but what will happen is, let's say you have the name Scott in your document and you're searching for Scott and you're not getting any results. That can be because the OCR quality that was extracted is identifying the S as a number 8, or a $sign. And I'm sure you all have seen that in your own practice when you've been searching in a PDF. Just sometimes the text is not extracted well, and that's just likely due to the quality of the document or other things like a layout or a font, some spacing. So in that situation, that's when it's important to use some of the other search options that I talked about before. So the fuzzy search, the concept search, and then also, once you see that you're not pulling any results for Scott and you notice that you would expect to have documents with Scott in it, if you use your fuzzy search, you'll likely find that the OCR quality was bad, and therefore the documents for Scott are reading the S as something else, for example. So a text-based index is going to give you text that's extracted from the native document. So this is different from the OCR document. So remember, the OCR document is taking a snapshot of the native document. So when I say native, I mean an Excel, a Word document, a MSG for an email, a PDF, a native PDF. So when you upload to a platform, if you have an OCR-based index, it's taking a picture of that native document and extracting the text from that. What I'm talking about now is a text-based index that's extracting the text from the native document itself. So any text that's typed into that document is indexed. So this includes, different from the OCR, all the hidden fields, all the comments, all the hidden sheets, the blind copy fields, things that you could not necessarily see with your naked eye if you were extracting the text only from the imaged version of a document. So if the text is typed into the document and doesn't appear as an image, so an example of this is a picture of the stop sign would not add the word stop to the index because the stop sign is an image. So this rolls into some of the data types that could be missed. So any type of non-text file, so a scan document that is not run through OCR, that has embedded text, any type of object or visual, it can't be indexed. So there are different native extraction methods. They can also vary in their ability to recognize certain types of text. So similar constraint with the OCR identification of words based on the type of text it is, the quality of the document itself. But really, the limitations of the native is that any type of scan document that hasn't been OCR'd is not going to be indexed. So looking at that and putting that into some plain language that you can understand a little better and see on its face, you have the OCR index versus the text-based index here. So your pros for an OCR is that it can search on embedded images. So it's going to be able to find your charts, your budgets, and any scan document. The cons is that you miss those hidden fields. So your Excel cells, any comment, track changes, blind copy fields. Then on the other side, you have your text-based index extraction, which you have the ability to search your hidden fields in Excel, any comments, track changes, a BCC field, but you can't find embedded images, text from those, charts, budgets, and scan documents. So the strength of one is the weakness of the other. So how do you know what to choose? What do you ask your vendor? What type of indexing do you support? Do you support OCR index or do you support a text-based index? What's better? How do you know? So here is an example of how it would look in your searching. So this is on the right here is a snapshot of LexB's document viewer. So this is showing the PDF view of the same document that you see on the right in its native format in Excel. So we type the word Joe Connor into the search. It would not return this document as a hit if we were searching in a typical OCR index, because you can see here, Joe Connor is not on this slide. Joe Connor is not in the PDF view. However, if we search for Joe Connor in a text-based index, and we see that on the right here, there is a hidden sheet. If we expose that hidden sheet in the native version, we see that, in fact, Joe Connor does exist on a tab that was hidden from the PDF view when the document was uploaded, and we're able to expose that personnel worksheet that was part of this larger government affairs workbook. So by doing that, we were able to find a hit for Joe Connor, and using the native option, we had a hit, but when we only had the OCR version, we did not. So that is a very good illustration of the importance of understanding the type of indexing that your eDiscovery platform supports related to searching. So you'll see again here that we have the Joe Connor with the text-based index. It yielded that same document as a hit, but the OCR missed the hidden fields on the pages like this one that we just looked at. So now looking at this one, we have a PowerPoint slide and it is a chart. So this would be considered an embedded image and it would not be readable by the text-based index that extracts text from the native. So the OCR index was able to lift the text of the document and it returns the hit on the word that we searched, this NW alum smelters. So the extracted text-based indexes misses the embedded or attached images. So in this case, this chart. Let's talk about the metadata index. So metadata is field level file information, and this can be used in review by filtering, and it can be delivered with your production from your opposition, or when you deliver your own production to your opposition, it's part of what's called a load file and is extracted and retrieved from the native file. So metadata overall is just information about your documents, and it produces very valuable evidence. So here are just a couple of examples of metadata that's extracted from your documents in an eDiscovery platform. We have the doc original title, so that's going to be the original title of a document before it was renamed by anybody. And then we have, of course, all the date and time fields. Those are very important to show when emails are sent and received. We have all the senders and recipients who received the emails, the date last modified, so the time that and date that the document was last edited by somebody. And then the file extension and file type, it's going to show the quantity of the type of ESI that was produced. So you can filter by how many PDFs are there, how many DWGs are there, how many docs are there, etc. Moving on to foreign language and translated text. So there are, of course, many complexities of translating documents. So when you're facing a case that has some volume of foreign language documents, you have to decide, first of all, how you're going to handle it. You have machine translation, which is not perfect, but can be very affordable. You can do human translation, which is very good, but is expensive. You're paying somebody by the hour to do that review. You can hire some foreign language staff to search. Again, human eyes are very good, but can be expensive. Or you can create foreign language search terms and have only your responsive documents translated. So that, again, that's not perfect, but it is more affordable. So then you find yourself asking, what am I going to miss? Or how much money am I wasting? So to further complicate the matter, you have to put translated documents to original for production, and that will have to be done manually. So what that means is that when you output your production, if you translate a document, you would typically produce the translated version, but most ESI protocol would be making you produce the native version of that document as well. So then you would have to find some way to manually provide that document, because it likely wouldn't be something that's loaded into your platform for review, because you would be reviewing the translated version. This is where we start to talk about what I talked about way early on with the concatenated indexed. So a concatenated index is going to combine two or more types of indexes. So in this case, it blends the OCR and the text indexes into one single searchable database. So regardless of whether the text appeared in a hidden field, which you would be able to get from text-based extraction, or an embedded image, the OCR-based text extraction, your document will be responsive to search. So Lexbe supports this type of concatenated index. We call it our Uber index because it seamlessly blends the OCR and text-based index. So it additionally includes the translation and the metadata indexes into the index. So when you apply your Boolean searches, it's going to pull text from either OCR or text-based, and it's going to give you better results. And we'll also do the same. It's going to apply the same standards to your translated documents, and will allow you to search in either language. So all the search expanders can still be applied. You can still use your fuzzy searches, your concept synonym searching, and you can do that right on your translated documents. So there is no either or with LexB's Uber Index. You get both of them, you get all of them right off the bat without having to ask for anything extra. That's just how our platform is created. Not all platforms are like that. So that goes back to the importance of understanding the software that you are using for your review, because if you don't know what you're working with, you can't be prepared to tackle those issues during your review if you're finding that your results are not what you expected. Make sure you talk with your vendor about that. So having only one index would, of course, miss information on this document that we talked about before. It's like a chart. The concatenated index is going to pull all of the text on the embedded image and in the comments and put it into one searchable database. We have multiple tabs in our document viewer, so this allows you to go between different views of the document. On the far right, you have the HTML text extracted. That is the text that is extracted from the native version of that document. So you'll see here, these are the documents, the words that were typed into this slide itself. On the far left side, you have the HTML text that is extracted from the document in the middle. So that's the text that's extracted from the native. Those are the words and letters that were actually typed into this document. On the far right side, you show the text, that's the extracted text from the OCR or imaged part of the document, and that's the chart itself. So you can see the difference here. This on the right-hand side is pulling out the verbiage that was part of the embedded image. And then on the left, these are the words that were part of the document that was typed in by the person creating the slide itself. Next, we're going to show an example of the multi-language search results. So in this sense, we're looking for the word a horse. The document is identified as a hit with both cabello and horse. So you can see here that because we have used our concatenated index, regardless of what version of the document you're looking for, either the native version, in this case in Spanish, or the translated version, looking for the word horse, you're going to pull a hit no matter what word you type into the search box up here. If you type in cabello, you'll get the same results as if you type in horse. Our translation tab is also available in the doc viewer. Once a document is translated, an additional tab will populate to the right of your extracted text view, and will show both the translated in that tab, and you can go back to the original version of the document for easily toggling back between the Spanish and the English version. That's also important because during your production, if you have to produce this document here, you won't have to manually go back and find a way to produce both the translated and the original Spanish version of this document. LexB will output a translated folder, which will include all of your documents in their native format in your native folder as you would expect. And then all of the translated documents will be synced back to your load file for easy uploading, but you will have both the English version and the native language version available without doing anything extra. It's automatically output in your production from the LexB platform. So again, that's something you'll need to talk to your individual vendors about how they handle that type of thing. So you need to evaluate your platform index. You need to know, does your platform offer a single index, and is it OCR or text? And then ask yourself, what am I going to miss based on the answer that I'm given? Some platforms will offer both, but you have to search separately. So that means you'll have to search on just the native versions, and then you'll have to go back and search on the OCR version. You can't do both at the same time. So you're spending a lot more time searching. And you need to ensure that your platform receives and indexes your metadata in a way that is searchable. So a fielded index is able to allow you to easily find relevant dates, relevant sender names, etc. And then finally, the foreign language documents. Can your platform offer the auto language detect? Will it be able to do what we just looked at a couple slides ago, where we're searching for both the Spanish version of a word and or the English version of a word and returning the same document? And when it's time to view and especially produce your documents, will your platform pull the original and the translated version together in a way that is easily producible and reviewable? So in summary, to avoid missing your key evidence in large document reviews using various search methodologies, the quality of your search index will and can directly affect the outcome of your case. You don't want to miss something because you weren't educated on the type of index that your platform supports, or you weren't sure what type of syntax you needed to use to return the best results on your documents. Your foreign language documents will add a level of complexity, and especially if your platform will not receive translated documents properly. This is another crucial question to ask your vendor at the time you engage their services, or rather when you're thinking about engaging their services, understanding how their platform handles the indexing and translated documents. Our LexB Uber Index will ensure that you don't miss any evidence by capturing all the text, whether it be embedded on an image, or that OCR extracted text we talked about, or the type text-based images or text-based extraction from your native documents, and will also pull in all metadata and translated text into a single searchable index. That concludes the portion of the webinar today related to searching. And I want to say thank you for joining us, and feel free to reach out to me personally or to LexB in general with any questions about anything I've talked about today. Thank you.
Erin, that was a great presentation, as always. Now I'm going to walk you through how LexB has developed our advanced search capabilities to help boutique firms and organizations effectively and efficiently locate the hot documents and evidence they need for their cases. For more than 13 years, we've been on the leading edge of e-discovery and have helped thousands of lawyers, paralegals, and e-discovery professionals with their matters. We have a highly advanced cloud-based e-discovery platform that will outperform any big law system, on-prem system, for a fraction of the cost. We also have deep expertise developing keyword strategies by case type. Our professional services team, as I mentioned, consists of ACET certified litigation paralegals with experience across all types of matters. So when you combine their expertise with the advanced capabilities and intelligence of the LexB Discovery platform, you have a highly effective approach to your search strategy that will quickly identify the documents you need for your matter. The stack of servers that you see on this slide represent our on-demand capabilities. When you load documents into our platform, we dynamically turn on the optimal number of servers to get your job done at a fraction of the cost and time of other platforms. We also split up the workload of processing, OCR, and indexing in order to get you from document ingestion to review and searching faster. So on this next slide, I've got a few points here that I wanted to cover. So I already discussed how our platform scales to get you to review faster, but that same architecture enables you to search faster and get search results faster. Because you get high performance, highly efficient, multi-threaded search capability with an index that identifies each unique word and its location. This results in you being able to instantly search terabytes of text in split seconds and dynamically update your index with new or changed documents, including translated documents, without having to re-index the entire data set. So it's very agile, high performance, and very effective. We also equip you with a very simple search user interface, and I'll show you some of that here in a couple more slides. One of LexB's innovations is the Uber index. As Erin mentioned, this is our concatenated index that combines the native characters, which is important in those use cases she mentioned, like hidden characters in Excel files, as well as OCR characters, characters in images, and translated characters records. This equips you with the largest searchable data set in order to find the evidence in privileged documents in your case. In addition to the Uber Index, LexB makes sure you're equipped to search for the documents you need for your case by processing a massive variety of file types. This includes email file types, Mac OS files, iPhone files, social media files, and collaboration application files like Google Hangouts. When I mentioned simple user interface, here's an example of what I was talking about. This is a Google Hangout file that is rendered in the LexB eDiscovery platform. All you have to do is drag and drop the Google Hangout JSON file over to the LexB eDiscovery platform. So JSON is a technical term and stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which in essence is a container that houses data and objects. And as you can see with this screenshot, the result makes it very easy for you to search and review these files just like they're rendered in the native application. So what you're seeing is the conversation between two people that took place in Google Hangouts. It gives you the ability to review that just like it looks in Google itself. The LexB Discovery platform has been engineered to include advanced technology such as technology-assisted review and predictive coding, as well as near-loop groupings, which I find particularly powerful, especially when dialogues cross communication modalities. I'm talking about near-loop here because it's highly effective in helping you search for and identify privileged documents and therefore prevent them from falling through the cracks into production. So you'll quickly be able to identify similar documents and code them appropriately. With LexB, technology-assisted review and near-loop groupings are included with your subscription and are engineered into the platform itself. So you don't have to have multiple point solutions. You don't have to worry about transferring data in and out of a platform. It all stays resident within the LexB eDiscovery platform, which saves you time and money and makes it very efficient and easy to use. These are some of the results of the G2 Crowd survey. The one thing that I wanted to point out here is the industry's best return on investment. We've achieved this because we help organizations handle eDiscovery in-house versus having to outsource it. It gives you control over your cases, it helps you efficiently utilize your employees, and it helps slash the cost of eDiscovery in your matters. And with that, I'll go ahead and ask our last polling question, and that is, would you like a demonstration of the LexB eDiscovery platform? All right, while you're answering that, I'll take this time to thank you for attending today's session. We'll be making the following available to webinar attendees. You can get a recorded streaming version, an MP3 podcast, as well as a PDF. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments about today's session or suggestions for future topics. This webinar is part of the LexB eDiscovery webinar series. For notices of future live and on-demand webinars as part of this series, please email us at webinars@lexb.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And watch your inbox for an invite to our next webinar on best practices in eDiscovery. Thanks again, Aaron, and thanks everybody for attending today. Take care.